Well, I don't know if you've been following it. If not, we're going to catch up real quick. The Murdaugh murders, people say it differently. The most scandalous murder trial in America right now. A lawyer is accused of killing his wife and his adult son to cover up fraud and all sorts of drugs.
I still don't know the motive for killing the son and the wife. What's the motive for that?
We'll get into that here in a second. If you want to get caught up a little bit more, here's a little bit of a news clip that kind of gives you an update, an overview of where we're at.
What you're saying is not accurate.
After 10 hours of riveting testimony.
When I checked Paw, I was already on the phone.
That's his son.
With 911.
Alec Murdaugh adamantly and repeatedly denies he's a killer.
Mr. Murdaugh, are you a family annihilator?
A family annihilator? You mean like, did I shoot my wife and my son?
Yes.
No. Would never hurt Maggie Murdaugh. I would never hurt Paul Murdaugh.
Prosecutors painting Murdaugh as a desperate man who lied about everything from his alleged financial crimes to a failed suicide for hire plot to where he was the night.
That suicide for hire plot is bizarre. He hired a hitman to kill him, to kill himself. He wanted to die, so which is also shows like there's problems.
Yeah.
And the guy, when he shot him, he didn't work. It hit him in the head, but it didn't kill him.
Jeez. And he was okay?
He was okay. Like he grazed him or whatever.
Did he have to go to the...
Yeah, there's pictures of him in an ambulance and all this stuff.
But how did he not go to jail for that, or is he did not, or he's
We can ask our official attorney.
Was he proven on that? Do you know? Like,
I mean, they're in court saying like, you hired a hitman to kill you.
And he says yes?
Yeah, and I guess, can you get in trouble for hiring a hitman to kill you?
Yes. I think so.
I don't know.
Maybe it has to do with his life insurance policy. Maybe if
there's some fraud there, maybe. I don't know. But no, he wanted to die.
If he's willing to take his own life, who knows what he can do with others?
Right. That's what the prosecution's saying.
Murders.
And you didn't go back down there after dinner until your return trip from visiting your mother? Yes, sir.
But Murdaugh changed his story in court after a Snapchat video placed him at the family's dog kennels minutes before the murders.
Come here, Bubba. Come here, Cash.
So for the whole time since this happened, since he's been accused, he's like, I wasn't even there. I wasn't there when they got murdered. I was at my mom's house. And then they discovered through, I guess, digital forensics, a Snapchat video from his son's phone when his son was playing with some of their dogs. And you hear Alex, his dad, in the background, like 5 minutes before they were killed.
Oh my gosh.
And he finally had to admit it because he had so much evidence. He admitted it like last week.
Why did he say he lied about that? You don't do that if you're innocent.
No, but he lied. Yeah, exactly. He lied about it because he knew if he ever said he's a lawyer too. He doesn't want to place himself at the scene of the crime.
Yeah. Murdaugh says the reason he lied, he didn't trust police and he had an opioid addiction that made him paranoid.
Are these also convenient facts in your new story that have to fit with the timeline?
No, sir.
And so, yeah.
Well, I don't understand why he seems so guilty. Why? And the motive part about the mom and the son, I don't understand why people think it's a possibility he's going to get off.
Yeah, and we can ask our official attorney, Lisa Lanier. I think some things I've heard is that he comes across as a good old Southern guy, and he's, I had problems. And he admits to like really embarrassing things, like I did 60, 80 pills a day, and, and I love my kids.
But that's just a distraction.
Yeah, I know. But some people, like Amber Heard, when she was in court, she came across as unlikable. Mm-hmm. And that could be a major issue. And I think even if she, not to relitigate that, but I think if she came across more likable, I think the outcome could have been a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I mean, juries are people. And if you come across as, likable, and the fact he took the stand, which is also very unusual in murder cases, usually you don't take the stand.
What is his motive of the murder of his son and wife? That's what I don't understand.
We'll ask our official attorney. I have an idea, but I want to get her on here. Our official attorney, Lisa Lanier. Good morning, Lisa.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, so this case is it's so fascinating, and I think there's so much, like you guys were talking about. If it's so obvious, why is he not just guilty, right? Well, there's a lot. So the defense has a lot of points that they can make, a lot of areas that they can criticize the police work. There's no direct evidence. So you think about, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, but usually a jury's wanting to see at least some direct evidence. There's no fingerprints, there's no blood splatter, there's no direct evidence putting him as a killer. There's no forensics putting him as a killer. There's nothing from a medical scientific standpoint that puts him as a killer. No witnesses. And then you look at the way the police handled it. It was terrible. Evidence was mishandled. Very sloppy police work. they let people, all kinds of people that had no business being there, come onto the scene at Moselle right after the murder was discovered. And then they released the crime scene the very next morning. So there were people going around picking up literally pieces of Paul's remains that were still there that had been missed by the police.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
yeah.
And they let him clean his house the next morning. So they never got to examine his house for evidence. They released his house as well, which is, his house is actually, a part of the crime scene potentially, even though it wasn't where the shooting occurred, because, he went straight back there afterward and he was there before. And so police should have protected that scene as well, and they did not. But so there's a lot there, right, that the defense has used and is powerful. But I think the evidence of guilt is really strong. As you said, he admitted to being at the scene from go, right? But he claimed he was never at the kennel. He said he was at the property, but not at the kennel. So now he's had to go back and admit that he was at the kennel because he was caught in a lie.
Right,
And,
there.
And right there, bam, caught in a lie. And, his that video puts him, the audio of him on that video, puts him at that crime scene just minutes before we know the shooting occurred. And that house cleaning that was done the next day at his house, he ordered that. So, why was he in such a hurry the next morning after his family's been killed to have his house cleaned?
Right.
It's
You
the
would
last
think
thing
the
you think
last
of.
thing.
Right.
You'd be mourning the death of your son and wife. And do you know what the motive would be why this happened in the first place?
Money was a big piece of it. I think, he had terrible financial troubles, and it was all coming down. It was all like he had built this house of cards and it was falling apart. He was found out for being an embezzler of a lot of money. He was addicted to drugs. He was doing all kinds of illegal things. He's under investigation for the death of his former housekeeper who fell down his stairs. He is, his son was in this boating accident, that caused the death. I mean, the whole house of cards was coming down. And a lot of times when someone has that sort of collapse of their whole world, they will do exactly what he was accused of being here, and they'll slaughter their whole family. It's it's insane. So, and get this, Maggie was not even supposed to be at Moselle. She was at the beach. She had a house at the beach. They kind of lived separate lives at this point. I think the marriage had deteriorated. She had a place at the beach. He called her and asked her to come back up there that night. And so he was the reason she was there. And then get this, we don't have the rifle that killed her, but the shell casings from the gun that killed her are a perfect ballistics match to shell casings on the property from one of the family guns, one of the family rifles that he owned.
Yeah, because,
so you've got a perfect match. Even though we don't have the gun, we have a perfect ballistics match. So we've got the shell casings from Maggie, and they've matched those up to shell casings from where, the family was like shooting targets or something, where they were recreationally using this.
Isn't that enough scientific evidence, right? That's not enough like scientific evidence that points that the bullets it came from his house, or they're just saying, well, we can't prove he held the gun? Is that what we're...
Right, exactly, because that's, you need something typically to put the gun in his hand, and that does not do that. And then there's more. His clothes that he was wearing on the night of the murders, gone. No explanation for that. Why are your clothes missing? Because that's where you would get direct evidence, right? You would get blood splatter, or you would get gunpowder residue, or, and he just, the implication there obviously is that he destroyed his clothes. And this guy, GPS was not his friend.
Yeah,
so,
GPS got him,
Got him lying again. He claimed he went to, I couldn't have been at the crime scene, I was at my mom's. Well, his mom's caregiver testified that he wasn't there for nearly the time that he claimed to be, and that after the fact, he came to her and tried to convince her to lie for him and to say that he was there for a longer period of time. So, bottom line, I think he's guilty. Now, the question is, though, will he be convicted? Because you still got this good old boy, small town Southern, that power family that can do no wrong. And if you don't have a very smart jury, you will get people on the jury who just do not believe that a Murdaugh can be a murderer and can be convicted of a murder.
Oh, gosh.
And they won't. So then what you'll get is a hung jury. So I don't think you're going to get a straight up not guilty under any set of circumstances. But I think you're either going to get a smart jury that convicts him, or you're going to get a not so smart jury that has a few people caught up in the Southern, fabric family, that's the part of the fabric of the community, and you're going to get a hung jury.
I mean, he sounds from the outside, it just seems so guilty, like over the top. Everything. You don't lie, lie, and then bullets match up, and there's a history of it.
You're there 5 minutes before the murder.
And you said he tried to kill himself at one point by hiring a hitman. I mean, there's obviously problems here. It would be horrible if he got off.
Yes.
And he was a murderer of his own son. I don't know how anybody could do that. And wife. That would be horrible to get off scot-free.
Well, if he has a hung jury, they can try him again.
Okay.
A hung jury is so that, and they probably would. Right. I mean, I think they would try him again.
Okay. All right. So the thing is, obviously, best case scenario, found guilty, and then second best is a hung jury. You get a not guilty, then he can't be tried again, and then he'll be in Florida
for the same crime,
doing a podcast with O.J. Simpson or whatever.
Jeez.
Seriously.
Right.
I mean, it's what.
Well, he is still. I think he'll even if under some strange set of circumstances he was not guilty here, he'll still go to prison for all the embezzlement and the fraud. And I mean, he's facing a lot of other charges, not just this. This is just the big sexy murder piece of it. But there's a lot of other charges because he stole millions of dollars from people, from clients, from his law firm. I mean, he's in some deep stuff all the way around.
I wonder if they have him on suicide watch because with all this going on.
Probably, I would think.
Yeah, in the past.
Probably so. And the suicide, where he tried to get the guy to shoot him, it had kind of a double reason because he was, number one, not wanting to face all that he had done, and number two, he had a big life insurance policy, so his remaining child would be taken care of, and that was his worry.
Now, could you be? Let's take him out of it. Let's say Jason hires a hitman because he knows a lot of them, a hitman to kill himself, and then the guy botches it. Is that illegal to hire a hitman to kill you?
Yeah, it's illegal to hire a hitman to kill anybody, but the weird thing is that suicide is illegal still in a lot of states, and that's bizarre sounding, right? But it's because if you're successful, you can't be prosecuted, obviously. But there's also usually in these hired hitmans, it's pretty rare, but it does happen when you hire somebody to kill you. Usually there is some kind of fraud involved too, because you're trying to help your family cash in on a life insurance policy when they shouldn't.
Yeah, and real quick, sorry, he wants to leave. He wanted to leave money for his remaining son. But what was the point of this particular son and the wife? Was it because he was getting a lot of heat because there was a boating accident? He thought they were coming after him for money. Like, do they have? Because don't they have to have a motive, a kind of a true motive of why to get a conviction, or no?
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have a motive, and I think here, the boating accident and the liability that's attached to that, as well as the when the house of cards comes down, that is in and of itself motive, because you do see these people who can't. It's like they can't deal, and it could also be that he really just wanted to kill Maggie. And this is one theory I think that some people have floated. And Paul happened to be there because he was checking on the dogs. Some of the dogs had like mangy tail or something, some kind of skin infection. And it's actually thought that maybe Paul wasn't even expected to be there because he didn't lure Paul there. He lured Maggie there.
Man, that's scary stuff. So I guess we'll probably have a verdict here in next week. I'm guessing, right? Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, and I think that the prosecution did a good job with just the way it ended with the fact that they portrayed him as shooting Maggie when she was running toward her baby, and that was a really powerful, effective way that ended. And what I have heard in some of the accounts is that when that very riveting statement was made that Maggie was shot running to the aid of her baby, running to her baby, that he was nodding his head.
like he was agreeing. I mean, that's just
Oh my gosh.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These sociopaths, boy, it's scary. Fascinating trial. Lisa, you did a great job, as always, breaking it down. If you're ever injured on the job, contact her right away at hireaheavyweight.com. So we'll see.